Have you ever wondered what it's like to work camera for the NBA? Well, I'm on my way down to a game, so let's talk about it. Basically, I've been working for the Pacers for a couple of years. This is my second season, and the Pacers are owned by Pacers Sports and Entertainment, so that covers the WNBA team, the Indiana Fever, and it covers their minor league team, the G League team, the Indiana Mad Ants. And I work for all three of those teams through Pacers Sports and Entertainment. And how did I get the job? I got it because I applied to an Indeed job posting where they were looking for part-time camera operators. And I applied, I got the job, and I've been working games ever since. So how does it work when you go down there and work a game? Well, after you get checked in through security with your credential, you get to the production meeting where the director for the day tells everybody about the particulars for the game. After that meeting, then you go out and you fax the cameras. Faxing the cameras just means that you go to the camera position that you're running for the day and you check to make sure the signal is going to where it needs to go, make sure all of the tally lights are working, make sure all of the things that need to work are working, and you do that with the TD and the camera shader. And then you take about an hour of a break, and then you come back and you run the camera for the show. Now, I have run a lot of the different cameras for them. I've run camera 1, which is their main game camera. And then I've run slash cams, which slash cams are on the corners, and they cross shoot the court. And then they have 2 handheld cameras, one under each basket. I've run those. They have also 2 wireless cameras. One is on a gimbal. It's like a small Sony mirrorless on a gimbal. And then the other one is a large production camera that is called the fan cam. So let's talk about the fan cam, because I've done that most recently. They give you a list of all of the hits that you're going to do for the night. So a hit is a spot that you're going to shoot. And over the course of the night, there's probably 20 or 25 hits, give or take. And these things are shot with the in-stadium host, because all of these positions that I'm talking about are for the in-arena show. It's the show that everybody sees on the big screens. So you have these hits where you go around to the food court and you go to the merchandise, you go to different fan zones throughout the stadium, and the live hosts, the MCs for the night, they interview people and they just, try to bring energy to the stadium and get people to take action. These are things like game shows where they have people guess different things, and then they have like the kiss cam, the dance cam, all these different activities. You've been to a game, you know what I'm talking about. That one's fun, but the hard part about that position is the fact that you have to go all around the stadium. So you have to go up and down the stairs, and the camera is very heavy. The camera weighs maybe 30 to 35 pounds. It's a lot to carry around, and especially up and down the steps. The steps are steep, and then you don't have a camera return because it's wireless. So what a camera return is in these situations is you can press a return button and you can see the program feed. When you're shooting, especially in the stands, you can't see how they're using it and how they're cutting it, because sometimes they shrink it down and put you in a little picture-in-picture, and sometimes they side by side, so you can't quite see it. But luckily the director's in your ear and he can tell you to make adjustments if you need to. It is fun because you get to move around a lot. Speaking of fun, I hope you're enjoying this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content. Again, this channel is about helping you create your own freelance life, because creating a freelance career can be very difficult. So I just like to use this channel to try to encourage and inspire and just share some of the tips that I'm using to build my freelance career. Anyway, back to the Pacers. So the other camera that I've run quite a bit of is I've run handheld on the court. One of the directors I work with, they virtually never cut those handheld cameras into the live switch. They only ever use the handhelds for replays. And one of the other guys down there, he does cut them in more often to the show. But still, the main purpose of those cameras is instant replay. The hard part about that camera is that you're sitting, because the NBA has a rule that you have to be sitting on the ground, okay? So you're sitting on the ground with a 25-pound camera, and the angle is all up. So you're shooting up from the ground. As a guy in his 40s, that's a little physically challenging, but I can still do it quite well. It's different than the fan cam, because the fan cam, you're standing and shooting straight, but on the court, you're sitting down on the floor and you're shooting up, and you have fans right behind you. So you have people that have paid for courtside seats that are literally right behind you, and you can sometimes feel them kicking you. And I also haven't experienced this, but you can get completely clobbered by a player. I have not had that happen yet. Knock on wood. I have been very close, where one of those very tall basketball players that's coming quite fast at you will literally just ram into you. I have not had that happen yet, but I have been sitting there and the guy next to me had it happen, and I mean, they clobber you because they're coming fast. The other camera that I've run is I've run the camera 1, which they call the game camera. That's the camera at the top that just follows the action back and forth. It's like the wide camera that you basically see on all broadcasts. That pretty much takes up 60 to 70% of the screen time. And it's just the follow cam, the wide cam that's going back and forth across the court and getting a continuous wide cover shot. That one is hard because you have to be paying attention. You cannot break your focus. You have to pay attention the entire time. So if you have a player that breaks off and steals the ball and goes back and scores, I mean, you have to be watching, because there's no room for missing that. So pay attention is the biggest thing on that camera. And it is the hardest part of that camera, is to pay attention and not break your focus. I've run the slash cam, which is again the cameras on the sides that are shooting into the action across it. Also a very difficult camera to run. In order to get really good at that camera, you got to run it all the time. You got to practice a lot. You got to have a lot of repetition. I have run it a few times. It's probably the hardest camera out there that there is to run in terms of specific skill set that you need to run it. When you're on one of these crews, you are expected to know what you're doing. That doesn't mean if you don't know what you're doing, you can't join the crew, because obviously everybody has to start somewhere. And down at the Pacers, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of people that join the crew that have not ever shot it before. So you got to start somewhere. And normally these types of places offer chances for newcomers to come in and do it, okay? But it's hard because you need to know what you're doing. It's a fast-paced environment. You can't ask a lot of questions over the headset, and you actually shouldn't ask a lot of questions over the headset. It's not like, you just shouldn't. Why shouldn't you? Well, there's no time for it. Sports, especially basketball, moves very quickly, and the director is cutting between the camera angles very fast. So there's not a ton of time for you to open up your headset and ask a question, especially a stupid question, because a stupid question, you're not going to get a good answer. So the best time to ask questions, if you have them, is before and after the game, privately. So like, let's say you're new to this and you don't know what you need to be doing on a camera. Well, I would get down to the venue early and I would ask the director privately, your questions, or stay after the show and ask the director your questions privately. That's the best way to get your questions answered. The other way to get your questions answered is to study film. And what I mean by that is, if you're shooting basketball and you haven't done a lot of basketball shooting before, watch basketball. That's what I had to do. I came into this, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I came into shooting basketball about 2 years ago, and I hadn't shot a lot of basketball. So I had to study basketball footage. I had to learn the tendencies of the cameras. I had to study. So definitely don't come in with a pile of questions if you haven't studied and you haven't taken a look through the available footage you can find online on YouTube, looking at what basketball shots are, because it's out there. Okay, some people really like to help and some people don't. You want to be a student of the situation and kind of feel out who's willing to help, because in these situations there's a lot of people that are not willing to help, unfortunately. People that have been operating cameras for 30 years and they just don't want to help. But there are plenty of people that want to help. You just have to find them. Producing one of these games requires a big crew, because not only do you have the in-house crew that's producing the show for the screens in-house, but you have the broadcast crew that's producing it for regional or national TV. There's so much opportunity to network, so much opportunity to meet people in the industry. You would assume that everybody that's going to be working these games are freelancers, but they're not. Sometimes you see people they work a day job and then they come in at night and shoot a few games a month. Sometimes you get people that maybe are on the road for broadcast television and they're just coming through town. Networking is very, very easy to do at these games. You just have to find the right people and be patient, okay? That's the other thing that you really need to do when you're doing these jobs, is just be patient, okay? Be patient on learning the craft. Be patient on getting good at the camera positions. And be patient on meeting people. Shooting for your local sports team, whether it be minor league, major league, or anything in between, college, anything. It's a great way to gain experience. And the reason why I really like NBA more than NFL is that there's just a higher quantity of games. In the NFL, there's only, 8 home games at the most? Normally it's one person at the team that's crewing out for the in-house, and then maybe one person that's crewing out for broadcast. And it wouldn't be that hard for you to figure out who that person is for the teams in your city. It's not as hard as you would think. You just have to look around and try and find someone that's working for the team, and see if they'll share the name with you. And I just want to encourage you to be patient, okay? Building a freelance career takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of front-facing, looking, searching, talking, networking, applying, all of that stuff. So you never take the pressure off of looking for jobs, even if you're fully booked out. If you're fully booked out, that doesn't mean that you should stop looking. In fact, that's probably the time you should look the most, because you have the most to talk about. Because getting booked oftentimes has to do with what else you're doing. I hope that encourages you. I hope that gives you a little insight on what it's like to do this kind of thing for an NBA team, and figure out how to get on the sports crews in your city. And I would love to hear about your experiences. Feel free to comment if you want. Let me know what you guys do, where you're at, and we will see you in the next one.